So next up is the panel discussion on innovations, laggards, how India's universities can catch up. While these gentlemen are arranging the chairs, I'd like to introduce our panelists. We've lined up a stellar cast of panelists to have this very important discussion. How can Indian universities catch up in the global innovations race? May I introduce our first panelist, Mr. Atul Khosla, Professor Atul Khosla, an alum of IIT Kanpur and the Jamnalal Bajaj Institute of Management Studies, Mumbai. He has a distinguished career spanning international consulting, policy advisory, and higher education leadership, with work experience in higher consultancy firms, including McKinsey in New York. Professor Atul Khosla is now the founder and Vice-Chancellor of the Shoolini University, Himachal Pradesh. He's also the Honorary Enterprise Professor at the University of Melbourne. In addition, Professor Khosla is the founder CEO of Daskalos, an initiative focused on enabling leading international universities to establish campuses in India. Through this platform, he has facilitated entry of Bristol, York, Aberdeen, Liverpool, Victoria, and Illinois Tech universities into India. Congratulations on this initiative. Professor Atul Khosla, we welcome you. Next up is Mr. Shyamal Gupta, who's a public accountancy and business management alum of the Kellogg School of Management, Northwestern University, USA. With over a decade's experience in global finance and development, he has served with Arthur Andersen and the World Bank Group. He is now the Chief Operating Officer of Illinois Tech Mumbai Campus. He leads the design, launch, and the operations of the first US experiential learning campus in India, which is going to be aligned with Illinois Tech Chicago. Welcome, Professor Gupta, welcome. And we wish you all the best to Illinois Tech in India. Professor Ajit Pratap Singh, he's a civil engineering postgrad and doctorate from Pilani. He's the senior professor in Dean Admissions and Student Financial Aid at his alma mater, which is BITS Pilani. He has over 3 decades of expertise in sustainable water resource management, hydraulics, and water quality modeling. He's also a fellow and of leading professional organizations in engineering and hydrology. Congratulations and welcome, Professor Singh. Most importantly, at BITS Pilani, Professor Singh has driven curriculum innovation and admissions reform and global collaborations across all BITS Pilani campuses in India and in Dubai. Welcome, Professor Singh. Professor Dr. Arpita Gupta, she's a history and law alumna of the University of Delhi and the Cattolica Global School of Law, Lisbon, with advanced law degrees from Wisconsin Law School, University of Wisconsin-Madison, and the Harvard Law School. Professor Gupta is Dean of Research at the O.P. Jindal Global University, and she's also professor at the Jindal Global Law School. Welcome, Professor Gupta. Dr. Manish Thomas, he's a science postgrad of Calicut and Kannur University. He's a doctorate from Saurashtra University. He's currently the Chief Executive Officer of the Manipal Government of Karnataka Bio-Incubator, which is supported by the Karnataka Information Technology Services, the Department of Biotechnology, and the Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade. We welcome you. He's actively involved in startup mentoring, driving innovation in higher education institutions across the sectors of life sciences, healthcare, biopharma, and biotechnology. Welcome, Dr. Thomas. And may I now invite our moderator, Mr. Dilip Thakur, publisher, editor of Education World. Dilip, over to you. How India's universities can catch up in the global innovations race.
We look forward to some education from you. Oh, sorry. Hello, hello. Can you hear? Yes. Well, thank you very much for all of you for coming. Very distinguished panel. I feel humbled in front in terms of my lack of education. I'm only a law graduate and a journalist and not an academic. So, therefore, we want some, first we're going to have a rapid fire question. Yeah, first a rapid fire question, which we'll all answer. We'll do 2-3 rounds, I hope, in the 1 hour that we are. And I'm sure we'll get some very intelligent responses from you. So the first thing we need to ask is, are Indian universities and India generally laggards in innovation? Atul, you go.
I think the answer is absolutely no, Dilip. Because innovation has two sides of the coin. There is research and there is how we deliver education. I think we are behind in research, absolutely yes, and that's where you found my answer a little different. But on innovation, on cost and efficiency, we are leaders. And let me try to make my point over here. Any top global university operates on a cost structure of anywhere between $15,000 to $18,000 per student of cost per year. Indian universities, even the best of them, whichever way we define them, will operate at 1/3 of that cost. We've got Pilani over here, they can look at their numbers. And I think that frugal innovation is what is going to change the world, Dilip. 60% of global learners in the world sit in either India or different parts of the global south. The world needs education to be delivered at $4,000 to $5,000 a year of cost or even lower. And only Indian institutions can deliver to the world and to the global south. So let's build on it and let's make India successful.
Can I just intervene? Oh, no, I'll come back. Okay. Next, Arpita. Dr.
Right.
Arpita. Are we laggards?
We do have innovation and talent potentialities. We need to work on scaling up. So commercialization and scaling up, there's a lot of work that needs to go there. So we're not laggards, we have the potential, we just have to put it in the right direction.
I also agree with our previous speaker that in fact how we are going to quantify. So I think there are two things, outcomes and outputs. So if we talk in terms of output, I think India is doing great.
Great.
Yes, because if you see, say for example, BITS Pilani, we used to receive about 250,000 applications for 3,300 seats. So now as an institution, what you can do, basically you can get the students who are going to be problem solvers, and based on that you are going to select, but it is not necessarily that they are going to be creators and all. So within the framework, I think we are trying our best as an institution of India, but at the same time, I think when we measure at the outcome, then definitely we are laggards.
We are laggards.
Yes, sir.
So I think I'm not going to answer the question directly, but I agree with what Atul also mentioned. I think the pace that India is moving at and the pace India needs to move at, I think with foreign universities entering India, it's going to give a push to that research and innovation to the Indian universities to better compete. And also, foreign universities will learn from Indian universities how to work on an operational model, which is on a lower operational model. So I think it's going to be a win-win situation from both sides in terms of the foreign education players coming into India and the Indian education players.
Dr. Thomas?
So it is having two angles. If you look into innovation in education, yes, we have. If you look in an industry perspective, we have gaps.
We have a?
Gaps. So this is mainly because our education is more focused on imparting learning or the knowledge, not into a commercial aspect. So everything cannot be counted as a commercial aspect. So if you look into the realistic ratio, the translative part or of innovation in Indian higher education is less than 10%. So that is where we have to make up.
Okay, back again to Atul. So you are very impressed with the innovation and record of India. How come we have not, in the last 79 years, produced a single global game changer product or service? Internet, smartphone, jet plane, automobile. As far as I can think, only UPI, I believe, is the one product which we can say but it's not a global game changer. So how do you explain this to a layperson like me?
So Dilip, every organization, every country has to go through a journey from where you are, where the starting point is, and where the end game is. And I'll just try to give you the context over here and give you some statistics. Let's look at the total cost structure of a top US university, let's say UPenn or Harvard. The annual cost structure of University of Pennsylvania is $10 billion. And I'll give you the context of
Cost structure means?
The total budget per
Budget.
year. Now, $10 billion is the budget of one university, UPenn. I come from the state of Himachal. My total GDP of Himachal is $25 billion. Just to give you the context, now, the number one university, let's say in India, IIT Bombay, for example, would probably operate at a budget of 1,500 to 2,000 crores. That's $250 million. So we're talking about a fundamental difference in the size and scale of these institutions in terms of budgets. That's the first thing to be kept in mind. But let's now compare output of an IIT Bombay versus a UPenn, or even my institution, let's say Shoolini. So if I look at my research budget, I operate on a research budget of 10 to 12 crores a year. But we have the highest citations per publication in all of Asia. We publish, 80% of our publications are in Q1 journals. We have more than 2,000 patents. I have 25 live commercializations happening, hopefully one unicorn. The point I wanted to drive is that we may not be leaders in deep research, which I agree with you, because the need of the hour was not that. But there is a tremendous amount of innovation happening in India. That innovation is happening in EdTech, where my partner Emeritus is now a unicorn. I'm in the process of writing a book. I'll just take 30 seconds more. And my book's title is 10 Things That Change the Way We Live, Dilip. But I want to go beyond internet and others. And the type of things I want to talk about innovation is, let's say, the way we bathe every day. When I was growing up, bathe. There was no water when I was growing up. And what changed that was a company called Syntex, which created water tanks, right? Or the way we consume snacks, for example. There's a company you may not be aware called Paperboard that went out and changed the way we do packaging. So the point I wanted to drive is the next 10 years is about deep research. India has innovated on services and producing products which are for the masses of the country, delivering a 2 rupee shampoo, for example. So cost was the issue earlier. Efficiency was what we operated on. And the next 10 years are going to be deep research. And Indian institutions, I have no doubt, all of us will produce tremendous research and products to deliver that. Thank you.
My question is, how come we haven't produced a single global game changer?
Because it was not needed, Dilip, and we didn't have the funding for that. And the industry is also not funding that because they were solving different type of issues. So I do not have the money and the resources today to solve for issues of United States. But we are trying to solve problems of
Africa,
India.
even our own problems. Whether the problems that we had in 1947, like deep poverty in rural, very low productivity in rural India, low productivity in industry, poor, now as you know, poor quality air, water, I don't know, everything else. We have not solved those problems yet. And it may be a question of funding, but the question is it not? Then you have to cooperate with industry, right?
I will just answer it by saying, I can't comment on what the government has done. That's up to the government. All I can say is that the Indian education system, and I've got lots of peers over here, are sitting on a very solid situation. The next 10 years belong to India, and I am completely convinced that you'll see tremendous amount of innovation coming out of India, including possibly 10 Nobel Prize winners
10 Nobel Prize winners.
in the next 10 years.
Okay. Dr. Arpita?
So I would also want to start by focusing on funding aspect. We need both public as well as private funding. Right now, the kind of funding we have is very ad hoc and fragmented. So we need to streamline not only the internal ecosystem of funding, but also external. So I'm talking about tax laws and a lot of regulations that need to change. And I would propose that Indian universities should form a consortium and present it to the government and make sure that we are ensuring that we have an ecosystem not just internally but also externally, because internal ecosystem we can manage through grant management.
Are you satisfied with the record of universities in allying with industry? As far as I understand, universities for the last 50 years, 70 years have been working in one silo and industry is working in another silo. So is that not a failure? I mean, is not a failure of universities to collaborate and to put knowledge to commercial use? Is that is a failure of Indian universities or not?
That is a problem. Actually, that is a problem. And if you look at the data, if you look at the statistics, industry collaboration with Indian universities is very low, and we need to work to bridge that gap. I was talking about fragmentation, you're talking about silos. We are actually talking about the same thing. And in terms of, so I'm coming from social science liberal arts university. For us, it's not just lab-based innovation, but also innovation aspects with respect to policy, regulation, as well as digital technology use. So we need to
all
break
universities should also take the initiative to reach out to industry to commercialize knowledge.
And that has already started. I'm sure in all of our universities, we are actually establishing IP offices, and we are streamlining the processes and moving in that direction. And I'm also very optimistic that in the next 10 years, we're going to bridge a lot of gaps. And these kind of are really important.
Okay, you're optimistic, yes. Okay, sir.
Yeah, in fact, even I am also very much optimistic now because if you see earlier, so most of the things when we have started education, so we were more towards quantity side, not the quality that much. But say for example, if you see even our ranking systems and other, so the people used to simply say, observe or measure what number of publications we are publishing, but what is its quality, it is not there. How many citations,
most people have difficulty in understanding what those publications are about.
So even in India, if you see today also, as far as output is concerned, we are third in number of publications, but if we see the citation per paper, I think we are lacking a lot in that. So, but now our universities are conscious about it, and they are improving enough. So that is one thing. Similarly, industry-university linkages, as you said, that it is earlier a lot of isolation was there. University was teaching whatever, but it was not linked with industry needs. But today, I think number of universities have started in industry immersion programs where faculty is going to industry and spending on sabbatical for 6 months, 1 year kind of things, and they learn what is their needs, and they again come on to universities and do that. Internship programs, I think Pilani used to do this from 1974, but
practice
school
program.
But nowadays, I think every universities are involved in some way or another in the form of internship. But I think that is, we need to structure further that how we are going to get the outcome. That is how our students are, students learning is going to be improved.
Sir, last year we discussed, I think you were here last year,
yes.
We discussed a project where you would say, how do we clean up the Ganges?
Yeah. So
that's what universities should be doing, right?
So, yeah. So,
but all these years, why not? The Ganges has got worse and worse.
Yeah, so as a result, what we have done, BITS Pilani, we have done is that we have introduced undergraduate research opportunity programs now. Every student of BITS Pilani is going to given 3 projects. One project is going to be basic UROP, that is undergraduate research opportunity program, then advanced undergraduate research opportunity program, and then super UROP, and it is linked. Problem here is that one semester education is not, as far as project type is concerned, it is not linked with another project. So say for example, students are going to participate in hackathon. Once hackathon is over, then ultimately it is not going to produce further. Okay, so that particular group has completed that task and it is completed.
But who should design that curriculum?
So
The university.
So university and industry together should able to design that and co-create. So ultimately it should be co-create rather than university only creators and industry scalable. That is not the case. Actually, both should be creators as well as they should scale it up. Then only, because the main problem in India is what? We have volume but without velocity. That is how we can move to develop and produce the impact. So that thing I think we need to work.
79 years now. When will we do it, you say?
So I think, yeah, so that's why I am saying that as our first speaker, Professor Atul mentioned that in 10 years, I think now we are in the right track and definitely many of our universities are going to lead.
So do you agree that even our social problems like clean water, clean air,
Yeah. So even I think this catching up.
that has to come from the university, right?
Yes.
Do you agree?
So as you mentioned, this catching up is, in my opinion, it is not the correct word. I think what we need not to create a Silicon Valley here, but what we have to do, what is our needs, what are the thrust areas for Indian context. Say for example, as you mentioned, affordable health, or education, or agriculture. India is an agricultural country. How we can produce a affordable solution in the form of irrigation. It's very nice.
Sir, I'm sure you're aware that agricultural produce, horticulture produce valued at 100 crores rots on the ground because there's no logistics, there's no proper storage, there's no food processing industry.
But-
I mean,
but-
all these things should have come out of our academia, right?
Yes.
Some solutions.
Yeah, but I think another thing which earlier speaker was mentioning is that you should also appreciate that the budget which we have is very less as compared to, so it is not that because of budget only we are able to produce, but if you see today you mentioned in your opening.
But part of your role is
opening lecture-
also to persuade industry to spend.
Yeah,
See,
so-
if you tell them that tomorrow you're going to become a very rich company, if you do X, Y, Z, everyone will agree. There's
Yes.
not a question of budget. You see, when I was in Business India, Mr.
No,
S.L.
it
Kirloskar.
is important. I can give two examples. So say for example, if you see today our gross expenditure in research and development, it is about 0.6% as compared to
3 and 4%.
Global leading economies 2 to 4-5% kind of things. As earlier also example is given in terms of IIT Kanpur and IIT Bombay and all those things. So basically, so even if suppose our universities are going to publish a good research paper in a journal, nowadays a lot of concept of open access and other thing is there. You will surprised to note that most of the publishing house, whether you talk about Springer, elsewhere, Nature, all are outsiders, global, okay. No Indian publishing house is actually at that capability. And and for every publication you have to, if you go for open access, more citation, everything it is there. So that is one part. Second part, but if we see hope in that, what we see is that if suppose we have less budget, still we can find out the solution in that. Sometimes
Google
even
innovation.
people say that in dark itself you have the solution. So I think that way we can go.
Yes, sir. Your contribution.
So I'm going to look at I'm going to answer the question from a different perspective.
Okay.
From a very outward perspective, we are looking at the problem from an inward solution. Now, let's understand the perception for India over the last few years has drastically changed. So when I was meeting, when I met
for the better or worse?
For the far better, for the far better. So when I was speaking to the president of Illinois Tech in Chicago, and I asked him two questions. I asked him, why are you coming into India? Okay, and where do you see Illinois Tech India in the next 10 years? His first answer about why is he coming to India? He says that for years, for decades, and for centuries, talent has moved to where the opportunity was. But now we feel, in India specifically, we have to move, the opportunity is going to move to where the talent is. Okay, and that is the reason the foreign universities are coming into India, because with the advent of GCCs, with the advent of AI implementation, not discovery of AI, agreed, but the AI implementation, that's what's happening in India. A solid tech-based university like Illinois Tech is now setting up base in India. So his second question, I said, where do you see Illinois Tech India in 10 years? And he said, Shyamal, I see Illinois Tech India in 10 years bigger than Illinois Tech Chicago. And that's a very, very big statement coming from the president of a top-ranked university.
So when you say we have talent, what's your comment that 40% of all graduates from Indian universities are unemployed?
So I would say the past is behind us. There's a huge future coming in, and I think with foreign education coming into India, it's going to be a shake-up for all of us. It's going to be a shake-down or a shake-up, however we call it. Okay, but I think we are on an advent of a huge change that I see in higher education. And it's all for the better for the overall ecosystem in India.
Yeah.
Dr. Tom.
So there are a lot of transformation happening, especially in the...
I asked the question, how come we don't have a single globally respected game-changing product or service in India in 79 years?
Yeah, I'm coming to that point. So if you look into majority of our academic systems are driven by the policies, either by the governments or the higher education institution policies. The policies will determine the outcome. If you look into today's policies, especially it indirectly reflect the ranking.
You're talking about government policies.
Government as well as the private, because certain segments, if into the medical or pharmacy or into certain sectors, policies are driven by the government. So the implementation of transformative research and technology development and commercialization started that in 2009. So and in 10 years, we have kept that momentum. So 10 or 15 years back, how many institutions are doing the research? It is very less. Now everybody started research because the policy insists them and the ranking parameters drive them into enter into the research. So whatever journal, Q1 or Q4, they try to publish something and get into this stream. This is where the typical lagoon is. What the system insists, they do. The system now insists the technologies or IPs enter into the ranking system. Now the academic institution running behind getting the IPs, so-called tech basket. So every university is having 500, 600 IPs filed in the tech basket. How many are translative? None. So there, the point I want to stress is the academic and industry level is still, till date, it is parallel. There is no conversion.
Still a gap, you're saying?
Yeah, it's still a gap. There is no conversion happen. The infrastructure in even the higher education institutions, we focus on only academic. For example, say, industry-ready skill and talent people. Do you have that people? No. Why there lacuna? Because there are thousands of crores funded into the infrastructure development in higher education institutions. But the policy insists and the people drive that institutions do not have a vision what industry require and what this talent pool is. There is a typical gap. Because this money, even though it's the taxpayers' money, it's coming to the higher education institutions, it will develop certain infrastructure which is not aligned with the industry. For example, how many of the industry-ready academic institutions, for example, practice the good laboratory practice, good manufacturing practice, a accredited lab which is ready to take the industry-ready pipeline? Nothing exists. So we can argue there are gaps existing, but yeah.
So do you agree, I mean, now anyone can answer, do you agree that is now, in future, you all, meaning universities, should take the initiative now, if you have a good product, good potential product, to go and market it to university, to industry. It's no use saying, well, there is a gap, but it's also incumbent upon you to close the gap. That's not been happening in the past few years, right, Atul?
So I think that's absolutely the right question, Dilip, because I would actually like to change the narrative of this discussion from what happened in the past to what we can do as institutions. And there are three things which I would suggest from my experience, both as a consultant and then in academia. I think the first is a very deep belief that if you want to build a great academic institution, it cannot be built without deep research. So historically, our IITs were built as teaching institutions and not research institutions. And I think that's what Sir is saying, that there is a fundamental change in thinking which believes that institutions need to have both quality of teaching and quality of research deeply embedded in. So if there are leaders over here for educational institutions, I would encourage them to make research also as their number one priority. So that's one. What do I mean by research? I think research would mean both academic research. Academic research is not as trivial as you said that you can't understand anything. I think it's very complex and there's a lot of value behind it. But definitely also starting to push the envelope around impact we can have on society, on industry, in terms of the innovations we can bring in. So that's the first.
You need to do innovations which you can, industry can commercialize. So there's a reason why industry is not interested in academia. There's that gap because you are producing the kind of research.
No, I will contest that, and I'll give an example over here. My team at Shoolini has one of the most cutting-edge team for research in hydrogen. Please understand that if you have to solve for hydrogen, there are at least 20,000 scientists across the world working on different parts of the problem. It's a big jigsaw puzzle. I can only solve for a small part of hydrogen. I will never be able to come up with a product. But that part of the solution which we are building is also very critical for the whole solution. So please don't undermine academic research. It is very, very important. I think I had the same perspective, Dilip, when I was not an academic.
I just need to see some benefit out of it.
There is
You're not doing research, but I don't see any benefit on the ground. That's why I'm asking.
You will see it, sir, in 10 years. So the first is please invest in research. The second thing I would say is we need to have anchor partners in industry. Each one of us need to pick up one or two serious industry partners who will invest in you. And I'll give an example again of Shoolini.
You need to reach out to them.
Of course, we have to reach out to them, and that's the only way. So, for example, we work very closely today with a textile company called Vardhaman, where I am on the board of Vardhaman. They have donated a very large nanotechnology facility, over 20 crores to us, which includes an electron microscope, or a SEM as we call it. And on a daily basis, we are solving some of their actual problems. So that's the type of things we need to focus on. And the third thing I would say is we need to encourage our students to pursue a path of innovation. We need to make sure that they're not roting anymore. And Joe spoke about it, I think, about how do we make them learn. So take them through the process of innovation, make them file patents, make them challenge the status quo every day.
So they can learn something out of it, right?
Absolutely. So I agree with you. Yeah. Thank you.
So, hello, madam.
Yes.
So do you think, now will you make a conscious effort to close the gap between academia and industry? What are you all doing about it?
So we are already working at it. And so for example, earlier universities didn't even have proper research offices with divisions and subdivisions. Now we are having a pre-grant and post-award management research office. And we are streamlining the entire process. But then we are also working, so when you talk about collaboration, it's not just industry, it has to be civil society, government, and a lot of other stakeholders need to be involved. I'll give you one small example. Even though we are a social science, primarily a social science university, we are working closely with a lot of these stakeholders. So in our neighborhood, we are providing through MSME, the Ministry of Small Medium Enterprises, consultancy for supply chain management, as well as improving the quality of their production and ensuring least wastage. So if that can happen in a social science-focused university, then if we think in terms of science and core sciences, there are so many possibilities. Now things are also changing at the level of the government. So earlier the funding was very ad hoc. So you would have DST, ICSSR, etc. Now we have the NRF. And one initiative that I would want to mention is their call for Center of Excellence for Science, Technology, Innovation, Indicators and Analysis. So they are actually thinking of rethinking how you assess innovation, how do you define innovation, right? What is the meaning of innovation and what is the impact?
For me, innovation is very simple. It's something that you can go and sell it to a company and say, hello, if you take this innovation, you will become $1 billion company tomorrow. That's what we want.
But yes, and also now we have also moved beyond that as well. So when we think in terms of, so we were talking about citations, etc. Okay, that is the first step, wonderful. But we need to go beyond academic citation when we talk about impact, when we talk about innovation. So commercialization is one aspect, yes, but also what about products which are socially oriented, right? So going beyond academic citations, going beyond just, registering patents, etc., and making things happen on the ground. So what else are we doing? We do have an entrepreneur.
I think we're running out of time. So I just want, sir, can we expect some game-changing product coming out of BITS Pilani? It's a very old university. I mean, we hear that you're doing incremental research and incremental innovation. That's not good enough. Now we need a product.
Yes.
Which will take the whole world by storm.
Yeah, so
can we get that?
Yes, so I think now BITS Pilani and like that many other institutions are now trying for that, and definitely in coming time a number of sea changers are going to be there. As far as industry, so this whole innovation, when I see personally, in that actually what we have to see, we have to prepare a outcome based
matrix. Yes, we want outcomes,
yes, so
not inputs.
Based matrix, that may be in the form of course, education is one part, but apart from that, startups is another thing. Startup, how, what is the graduate outcome? So generally what happens, most of the institutions see that in the past what we used to see, how many students graduated from us,
yeah.
That is the thing. But today I think we have to also monitor and see what is the growth of our graduates. We have to be connected with the alumni and
Sir, we need your graduates to produce some product,
yes,
which everybody will come running to India to patent. That's not happened yet.
As you have mentioned that it is also. So
if you, like we discussed, if you clean up the Ganges, you have the technology, you have the science, yes, and you need to do it.
So academic research is one part, but say many societal based project things is also very important. So as just now you have given a lifetime achievement. So I think Mr. Patel, whatever has done, it is another kind of research. It is another kind of work which is already being done by one particular university. It might not be visible in context.
It's not a global game changer.
But I think from country point of view, it is important. So it is not necessary. I think we should set benchmark for India.
No, sir.
It is not necessarily that
the internet came out of Stanford.
Okay,
so we need that kind of thing.
Yeah, so that
or the smartphone came out of Stanford. Sir, what about what can we expect from the Illinois Institute of Technology, India? Some earth-shattering product. Can we expect it or not?
So I'm just going
What's the time frame?
Absolutely. So I'm just going to slightly correct you. So the smartphone did not come from Stanford. The smartphone came from Illinois Tech.
Yes?
Yes.
Oh.
So
really? Oh, congratulations.
Yes. So Illinois Tech invented the smartphone. Illinois Tech invented Amazon Alexa. So Illinois Tech was also on the founding team of Linksys, and that's the same research base that we are bringing to India.
Yes.
So it's not that the reason we are coming into India is it's a two-way flow. It's a two-way flow of research coming in from the US to India, and that's going into our classrooms. Okay, and also we are learning from the Indian system about how to do it cost effectively.
Yeah, I think the public has now run out of patience saying we are doing this, we don't see
So it's all
any
happening.
outcome.
So it's all happening. So I think
No, you're most welcome. I'm
Yes.
very pleased to hear what you just told me.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Now, can we expect something out of Manipal, very old university?
Definitely. The system gaps we identified, right? So the typical case is we are imparting the global know-hows. If you look into the Indian publication and the products come out of the multinationals from the US or Europe, the base knowledge we are given.
Oh, yes.
Because the fundamentals, every outcome of intellectual property is based from a basic research. That Indian scientists or Indian researchers has contributed much. They cannot monetize because they are not in that capitalized educational system.
No, but if you have done it, you should let at least us know, no?
Yes.
So we'll publish it.
So
We don't get that news at all. If you're doing it in one corner of the country, which nobody knows about.
The system crack was the patents we file are fragmented. It is a minute. This minute they will join together. They will file a process patent and a product patent, and that can be taken by the giants. Because one researcher for decades will work on a fundamental things, find out certain typical know-hows. They will share in the scientific publication. This will be taken up from the corporates, and they can make and translate that into product. So this will happen with the capital and muscle power.
Okay,
So
okay. Now
I will
time.
answer.
We need to take some questions. Atul.
I need to give you one example of a path-breaking product that at least is happening in my university. We all want to live long. We have proven in the lab of a product that will increase the longevity of a cell by 30%, which means in the next 2 years, hopefully, I'll introduce you to a product that will increase your age by 30%.
No, hello. We don't want that. We'll have a very aged population to support. I don't think that's a innovation that we need. Anyway, from the floor, anyone?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon to all panelists. It was very wonderful discussions going on. I'm really highly impressed by the thought expressed by Atul Khosla, sir. And I'm highly impressed by the research team, those who are working in our School of Biotechnology. Basically, I'm Dr. S.B. Dahikar, Dean School of Sciences. I'm a microbiologist and biotechnologist also. And I thought because of the research driven come up of your university, and you have got QS ranking, I think 503 in last academic year, I think so, I'm not wrong. I think School of Biotechnology, Shoolini University, the Institute of Atul Khosla, sir. And definitely your thought is really appreciated, sir. The research-driven university should be a come up. And another thought is given by Arpita Gupta, ma'am, ki we have to form a Indian
What is the
university
question,
consortium.
sir?
Yeah, yes, sir, yes. I'm going to question, sir. Ki we have to form the all the Indian university a consortium for the research funding. My questions to the Dr. Manish Thomas, sir, because he is also microbiologist. And sir, in the last academic year, means 2024, Government of India has launched the Bio-E3 policy. That policy is economy, environment, and employment. So we have facing a lot of challenge in the community, like it may be related to agriculture, may be related to environment and health also as concerned. Yeah. So how can we cope up the funding that is they have already announced more than 10,000 crore.
You're asking such a long question. Yeah. I haven't understood
just
what the question is.
I will give a brief of, yeah. I just please tell me the how can we cope up the grant or the funding opportunity from the government of India, and what are the challenge you are facing, and how can we take a help of Indian university? So that is my questions to you, sir.
So Bio-E3 policy mainly focusing on addressing the gaps existing.
Right, sir.
So academic research happen, academic patents, academic publications are happening, but the commercialization is not happening. There is a typical lag in the infrastructure across Indian academia.
Right, sir.
So the Bio-E3 policy and biomanufacturing policy, especially focusing to address the gaps from the government or the taxpayers' money. So what this exactly means is, for example, if you want to develop a GMP compliant product, and academic researchers can produce if they have a GMP compliant facility for manufacturing academic infrastructure.
Right, sir.
The Bio-E3 policy exactly addressing that gap where you have the good qualified researchers, good know-how, technology, product development path, but infrastructure is not. That infrastructure is adding by Bio-3. So Bio-3 consists of research as well as infrastructure grant. Both can be achieved by the academic institution.
Okay, next question. Yeah, next question. Hello, do you all share any optimism about some earth-shattering product coming out of India's universities? Anyway. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Oh, right here. Sorry.
I mean,
over here first. Next
I'll
to you.
not say product of any individual university, but I mean to the panel and to the everyone. Don't you consider ISRO as an example of product of all the universities, many universities which is contributing? ISRO. It's a
ISRO.
Those who are working in the ISRO, these are the products of government and private universities. No one is working in the ISRO from foreign university, or I'm from IIT, but no IIT is there in the ISRO. Hardly any IIT.
I admit
It's a product
ISRO
of,
is a
ISRO is the best
achievement.
example why we
Yes.
underestimate ourselves.
Yes, it's one lone achievement, no doubt.
A very good afternoon to one and all present here, esteemed panelists as well. This is Shovik Roy. I'm the Dean of the School of Law at Adamos University in Kolkata. So basically, my question to the panel is that, coming from a law school and being the departmental dean of a law school, the actual grassroots level is the teacher who makes all the difference. And in teaching in higher education, at the end of the day, they're going for rankings, they're going for mentor-mentee system, they're going for all the mid-semester and semester examination and other continuous assessment process. Is it time, and I'm aware that few of the universities are doing it already, that higher education institutions and universities, they should actually focus on the dissection of teaching and research faculties, because not necessarily are all good teachers good researchers, and not all good researchers are good teachers.
Okay.
And there's a combination as well.
Yeah, I meant to, okay. You want to answer? I didn't understand it.
I think the question is whether there should be separate teaching faculties and research faculties. And I'll answer this very simply. My experience, and this is empirically based, is that great researchers become great professors in higher educational institutions, largely because teaching is about content, and as we heard in the morning, what Joe was speaking, research brings in a practical way to think, problem solving and new concepts, so do not differentiate the two. However, one of the things which I do a lot at Shoolini is I do have a separate bunch of people who only do research, because research can and does need a lot of time, but pure teachers I don't agree with.
So coming from law background, I would answer your question in terms of policies. So we need to make policies where we give sabbaticals, or where we have teaching buyouts, get such grants, etc., so that people can give focused time to research and then teach, and then vice versa, right?
Next.
There, Bhavin, one last question from there, the gentleman. Can you get the mic to him, Divyam? He's here in the middle. Yeah.
Good afternoon, sirs. This is Dr. Ronald, registrar from St. Aloysius University, Mangalore, one of the 146 years old institute, presently deemed to be university. My question is, most of the time you talk about the outcome as institute should go to the industry, and then the industry should receive or take our product. Why not other way? The industry should come to the institute and establish a center there at the institute, and hence develop that, because the finance most of the time lies with the industries. And therefore, instead of having the industries establish a research center, why not let them be there at the university, so that the outcome will be seen there. In this type of, where exactly question lies, is the policies of the government to direct the industries to come to the institute. I'm sure that direction we need to think about.
No, sir. If the mountain doesn't go to Muhammad, Muhammad must go to the mountain. The point
is, here is
the point is, if you have a wonderful product and you go to industry and you say you're going to become very rich, you can commercialize it. Of course, they will be very happy.
In order to get the wonderful product, it requires time, efficiency, and energy, as well as money. And therefore, the industry is known in that regard, and therefore coming to the institute...
Indian industry is full of traders. They're not going to do it. You have to go to them.
So can I just take a quick answer on that? Yeah. So I'll just give you an example. So this is already happening. So it's known, this is all... So Illinois Tech is a perfect example for that. The reason we are in India is not because you were dragged into India by Mr. Jamshed Godrej. Okay, so he dragged us into India. Okay, and that is the reason. So if he's bringing us, that's the kind of support that universities are getting from industry. So this is definitely happening, and and this is the kind of partnerships that will keep building over the years. So it's not that it's not happening. It's definitely happening.
True. There are also endowments, industry endowments for research in universities. We have 3, and we are on our way to get more. But to answer your question on policy, yes, we should definitely change our CSR policy. If you word it right, then that is very much possible.
So nowadays, a lot of industries are investing in universities, institutions, and in fact, even many of the industry people is coming as a professor of practice to universities. So I think some of the leading universities already are started hiring professor of practice from industry, and also industries are now creating labs in universities. And it is actually the labs for both universities and industries. So I think, in fact, including our institute, BITS Pilani, a number of universities now it is doing. But I think in last 10 years, we have done a lot of things in this area.
Well, it's good to hear that industry is finally waking up, because I don't understand. If I was in industry, I would definitely go to a university and say, come up with some product which is going to make my company a $1 billion company. I don't understand. This is what's happened in Stanford and with the Silicon Valley and MIT, Indian Institute, because the smartphone has made many companies very rich. I don't understand. Why doesn't Indian industry do that? No explanation. Though I was an editor of Business India and Business World, but if industry doesn't come to you, I think you should go and market and excite them and tell them, listen, we have a wonderful product. If you commercialize it, you're going to become a very wealthy company. So I think that role has to be, now you have to come out of your ivory towers and go get your hands dirty. Under the socialist Raj, it was considered very bad to make money or to tell for industry to collaborate with, for academia to collaborate with industry. But now we should change all that. There has to be collaboration, otherwise the nation is not going to move forward to solving any of our problems. Because you all have the intelligence, but you've been keeping it in your ivory towers all these years. Now you have to go and sell it to industry. I think that's very important.
We are doing that. That's already happening.
Okay, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Unfortunately, time is up. Thank you, all my panelists. We had a stimulating discussion, and I hope that we are going to get some fantastic, game-changing products coming out of India. I don't know, underwater car, flying car, at least a superior jet engine. None of this has come out of our, I also partially blame universities, but it's mainly... Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Dilip. Innovation first, nation first, and education first. That has been the motto of education world.